Observing your own thinking as a leader is absolutely a high performance habit. Let's take a look. So what does it mean to observe one's thinking? Well, if you think about the definition of observe, mostly it's about noticing something. You know, it's to watch carefully. It's to take notice of. It's to watch the detail of something. So just think about yourself observing some area of your life. You may be sitting on a park bench, people watching, and what are you doing? You're observing the behavior of others. You're observing the interactions other people have. You could be sitting in nature, observing nature, you know, observing the way the birds interact or the other animals or the trees or the lake that you're in front of, okay, or the river that you're sitting in front of. You're observing and noticing the details of what's unfolding in front of you. I'd like you to keep that visual present as a leader as you go through your day-to-day dialogue with people and your day-to-day interactions with people. Becoming an observer of your interactions, becoming an observer of your thoughts is a critical mindset of high performance. So what does it actually look like? What it looks like as I go through my day, I'm starting to notice how I'm talking to myself. I'm starting to notice, you know, that inner voice which starts to have a commentary about what's happening around me. I notice when I'm in meetings or I'm with my team or I'm in a sales conversation. I start to create more and more space between what's happening and my automatic response to what's happening. So being an observer of my thinking means that I do have the capacity, which is a practice skill, to be able to separate what's happening out here in the situation and even what's happening in here and how I'm talking to myself about what's happening. And I can observe all of that from a different perspective. So in other words, you know, I could be in a meeting and somebody could say something or introduce a new concept which I completely disagree with. And without speaking automatically from my disagreement, I could take a pause and I could reflect and I could look in that moment and say, oh, I see, I have an opinion about what's happening and I disagree with what's happening and I have a different view. But I'm having that conversation with myself internally. And therefore, I become a very powerful leader because I give myself choice. You see, if I can observe my thinking in real time, in a real moment, I'm no longer given by just a reaction to what's happening. You know, in the past, I may have reacted from my disagreement and said, I disagree, and whatever I would have said, which is fine. There'll be a certain outcome of results or quality of results that I'll get from just reaction. But mostly, if you look, what we're after as leaders is not so much a reaction to what's happening, but a quality response to what's happening. So if I grant myself some room to observe my thinking, I give myself a little bit of space to choose my next action. Do I want to respond with, I disagree? Or do I want to respond with perhaps nothing? Perhaps silence, perhaps I will respond by listening more before I respond. Perhaps I will have a commitment to understand better before I react. Now I can still disagree, but at least now it's after consideration. Do you see? So you'll find that you're less reactive as a leader as you observe your thinking more and more. Einstein has a perfect quote about this, and I often joke about it because I say it's a brilliant quote. Right? But of course it's Einstein, so why wouldn't it be brilliant? But Einstein is quoted as saying, my first thought is not my best, nor is my second. I love that quote because it speaks to what I'm speaking to here, which is my first thought is my first reaction to what's happening, and it's usually not my best. So if I give it some space, what can emerge is perhaps my second thought. Now, in Einstein's illumination of this, He also says that also may not be your best thought. You know, my first thought's not my best, nor is my second, which leads you to believe perhaps your third thought could be your best thought, or maybe your fourth or fifth. But the more room and space you give your thinking to just be there as thinking, that you don't have to agree with or disagree with, you don't have to run with, you don't have to comment on in the moment necessarily, the more you'll experience really being in control as a leader, being thoughtful in your speaking, thinking more, reacting less, and then your quality of response as a leader, you'll find is more and more appropriate, grounded, peaceful, centered, and thoughtful in the moment, which gives you better solutions, which improves your relationships. And of course, we always respect leaders who seem grounded in the eye of the storm, so to speak. Consider the quality that they're demonstrating is what I'm speaking to. They have an ability to stay calm in the eye of the storm because they're not reactive as a leader. They're here, they're peaceful, they're observing their own thinking and choosing the best path forward. So the high performance practice as you go through your day is to notice your own thinking. See if you can catch yourself ready to react. And the moment that you can see that I'm ready to react is the moment that you're actually here, present, and you can choose the most effective response. And this is a big deal in leadership, and also a life skill to master over our entire lives. So take it on. There's no top to this mountain, so to speak. Keep noticing your own thinking. The more you can notice your own thinking, the more choice you give yourself as a leader, and the higher quality response you'll find yourself giving.